Hi, kids. It's Mr. Bruce, and I'm not at the barn today. I'm actually here with my grandson, Conrad, and my granddaughter, Ingrid May, and we're up in Washington State in a little town called Clay Elm on a ranch that they live on. And I am here. Yeah, there's the phone right there, Conrad. And we are up here to celebrate. Well, let me remind you, last time I was with you, it was Mother's Day, and guess what today is? It's Father's Day, or Grandpop's Day too, in my case. Well, we think about fathers in a special way because we think about God our Father. And God as our Father wants all the best things for us. He wants us to be safe, and He wants us to be healthy, and He wants us to be secure, and He wants us to have fun, and He wants us to know Him. And just like your moms and dads and your grandpops and your grandmoms want you to know God as well. And my dad raised me to become a good dad, and I became a dad too. I want Patrick to come over and stick his head in here a second. This is my youngest son, who used to be really young, and now he is the father of Ingrid and Conrad. And so that's what we as dads and moms want to do. We want our children to grow up and be great dads and moms to you all. So I'm actually going to read a book to you today called The Three Little Tugs, and it was written by Mr. Bruce and his wife, Miss Linda. And we're going to read to you the story because it's about three little tugs, but it's actually a story that we kind of wrote about our three boys that we raised when they were little and that have now become daddies themselves. So, are we ready for the book, Ingrid?
Yes.
Okay, Conrad, you want to read this? Or we're going to look at trucks. All right, here we go. Once upon a time, there were three little tugboats, one red, one blue, and the third green. They lived in Safe Harbor, a body of calm blue water under sunny skies. The harbor is protected against strong winds and crashing waves from the great ocean by a jetty of solid rock. At the farthest point between the harbor and the ocean is a magnificent lighthouse, anchored firm in bedrock. The lighthouse stood against strong winds and whatever weather might come their way. Atop the lighthouse shines a brilliant light, constant and lasting, that cuts through the darkest nights and guides ships on their way home. See the three little tugs playing? The three little tugs spent their day...
What did he say?
Well, I'll show you. The three little tugs spent their day chugging around the calm waters of Safe Harbor under the watchful eye of the lighthouse. They loved playing games like tug of war and bumper boats. And with their faithful furry friend Hairball, you see Hairball on the boat? There he is, right there. With their faithful furry friend Hairball along for the adventure, they discovered new creatures in the sheltered world around them. Over time, they explored every nook and cranny of the harbor shoreline. The three little tugs knew the waves were far too big beyond the breakwater and never ventured past the lighthouse into the deep water. But they would often sit together on the edge of the harbor, wondering what was beyond. Sometimes they would see dolphins and flying fish and huge ships headed to faraway places. The little tugs longed to be big enough to explore the world outside the Safe Harbor, but they weren't big enough yet, were they? Because they were just little tugs. One evening, as the sun was about to set, excitement came to the harbor. A baby whale had become separated from its mother and swam into the bay. With darkness falling, the little whale found itself alone and afraid, unsure of what to do. The mighty lighthouse tried to guide the whale by shining its light to show the way out of the harbor, but the baby whale didn't understand. The three little tugs sprang into action.
Why?
Yeah. Working together, they gently surrounded the baby and guided her out to its worried mother. She breached out of the water with a big thank you splash to thank the little tugs. See her jumping out of the water? She's happy. As time went by, the tugs grew. Are you growing each year? As time went by, the tugs grew and began to change. They became a little longer and sleeker and sprouted masts. After a while, small sails and rudders appeared. They were no longer little tugs. They had grown to become sailboats that could harness the wind. As tugboats, they had already discovered every part of the harbor. Now, with their sails filled with a strong breeze, the three little tugs ventured out of the harbor to explore the nearby coast, but always within sight of the watchful lighthouse. See her still looking at them while they're outside the harbor? Filled with wonder, the three little sailboats discovered new life outside the bay. They made friends with a pod of playful whales. They watched sea turtles lay their eggs on sandy beaches. They learned to use the wind to ebb and to tack as they cut through the waves, delighting at the sea mist they splashed upon one another. Do you see any turtles there? Yeah? With each passing day, their sails grew larger and fuller, and their hulls deeper and their bows broader. Now they could cut through the biggest waves and harness the wind to turn in any direction. Their desire to explore further into the ocean grew, but the orange glow of the setting sun was always a reminder to return home to the lighthouse and to their safe harbor. Early one morning, in the pink light of the rising sun, the lighthouse looked down and the sailboats were gone. In their place floated three majestic tall ships, grand and exquisite. So the sailboats had actually turned into big tall ships as they were growing up. While Safe Harbor would always be their home, they were ready to set sail for their own adventures wherever the trade winds might take them. Each ship made their own plans, prepared their course, and took on the supplies they would need for the voyage ahead. The red ship decided to explore across the Pacific Ocean to the wonders of New Zealand and Australia. The green ship wanted to explore the exotic world of Asia, and the blue ship longed to experience the mysteries and the magnificence of Alaska. Finally, the day came when each ship weighed anchor and slowly floated past the lighthouse as they left Safe Harbor. With a special wave goodbye, they excitedly set their mainsails and headed off over the horizon. You think that was hard for the lighthouse to see them go? You think that made the lighthouse sad? I think it might have a little bit. The lighthouse looked down at the now empty harbor, where there was once so much excitement and activity. All was quiet, but the lighthouse did not dim her light. After all, this is what she had always wanted for the three little tugs, for them to become strong, equipped, courageous, and to set out for adventures of their own. The lighthouse would continue to be a bright sentry, ready to illuminate new adventures of her own. But she would always be... What's that? Yeah? But she would always be on a special watch for her tall ships to guide them safely back home from their journeys around the world. The three tall ships continued their exploration, sailing to new worlds. Throughout their travels to wonderful and exotic lands, they knew they could bravely and boldly navigate uncharted waters because their hearts were anchored back home in Safe Harbor. Time passed. One evening, as the lighthouse was on her appointed rounds, she caught a glimpse of three familiar masks coming over the horizon. Her light glowed brighter than ever before. Somehow, all three ships found one another on their separate voyages back home. With sails billowing, they splendidly sailed into the harbor, bursting with exciting stories and treasures from their adventures. As they shared their tales with one another, the lighthouse glowed, knowing that even though they were now mighty tall ships, her three little tugs were once again back home in Safe Harbor. The end. And as we think about Father's Day and we think about our parents, I want to just remind all you lighthouses out there that you hold your little tugs' hands for only a short while, but you hold their hearts forever. This is Mr. Bruce saying, have a happy Father's Day, and everybody wave goodbye. Can you wave goodbye to the camera? Can you wave, Conrad? Bye, everyone.